You're at a dinner party. You know everyone in the room. Or you used to. 3 years ago, these people were your circle. Shared holidays, group chats, the kind of friendships where you could call at 2 a.m. and someone would pick up. Now you walk in and the room barely shifts. A few nods, one wave that might be for someone behind you. Nobody moves toward you, not hostile, just neutral. The way you'd look at someone you vaguely recognize from a waiting room. You didn't have a falling out. You didn't move away. You just had a quiet 6 months, a rough patch, some cancelled plans, a few messages you meant to reply to but didn't. And in that silence, your score dropped below the line where the system keeps you visible to your own network. You didn't disappear overnight, you faded. And in this world, that's exactly how the system works. Social reputation doesn't survive on its own. It decays. Go quiet long enough and the world doesn't reject you. It simply forgets you were there. There was a time when you could go quiet and still belong. You could skip a birthday, vanish for a month, and when you came back, people just said, "Where have you been?" and moved on. Reputation wasn't a number on a screen. It was a feeling other people carried about you. Messy, informal, and stubbornly resistant to algorithms. Then the tools got smarter, and someone asked a question that sounded perfectly reasonable. Why should you trust someone you haven't heard from in 6 months? It didn't come from a government office. That's the part people always get wrong. There was no act, no bill, no vote. It started as a feature, a platform called Verity, half professional network, half credit bureau, fully voluntary. It let you see how recently someone had been endorsed, how active they were in their community, how consistently they showed up. Your Verity score wasn't a judgment. It was a pulse, proof that you were still here, still engaged, still worth knowing. Employers checked it before interviews. Landlords checked it before showings. Dates checked it before saying yes. Within 2 years, not having a Verity score was treated the same as having a bad one. Within 5, the government folded it into civic infrastructure. Digital trust verification, they called it, which is the kind of phrase that sounds like it means everything but actually means nothing. But it looked great on a poster. Here's how the decay worked. Your score didn't drop because you did something wrong. It dropped because you didn't do enough right. Every interaction, every endorsement, every visible act of social participation fed the number. And the moment you stopped feeding it, it started bleeding. Slowly at first, then faster, like a fire that dies the second you stop adding wood. The system didn't punish bad behavior. It punished stillness. And in a world that never stops talking, silence became the most dangerous thing a person could choose. You're 26. Your alarm goes off at 6:15. Not to exercise, not to meditate, to check your overnight decay. 3 points. You lost 3 points while you were sleeping. Because sleep is 8 hours of silence, and silence is erosion. You open the app and start the morning ritual. Respond to 2 endorsement requests. Comment on a colleague's post. Confirm attendance at a networking brunch you have no intention of enjoying. Your score ticks up. 1 point. 2. Just enough to hold the line. You used to think of these things as social gestures. Now they're maintenance, like paying rent on your own relevance. By 9, you've already said, "So great to see this," to 3 people you barely know. By noon, you've accepted a coffee invitation from someone who once described you as a really solid connection, which, looking back, is the loneliest compliment in the English language. You laugh louder than you mean to at a joke that wasn't funny. You share opinions that feel like consensus because consensus is safe. You attend things you hate because absence is more expensive than boredom. You stop saying what you think and start saying what lands. Not because you're afraid of controversy, because honesty is inefficient. An honest opinion might land wrong, lose you points, cost you a connection you can't afford to drop. So you sand down every edge. You become smooth and agreeable and perfectly optimized, and the system rewards you for it. Sociologists have a name for what's happening to you. They call it performativity. The idea that identity isn't something you have, it's something you perform. And when the performance becomes mandatory, the person underneath starts to dissolve. Not dramatically, not in a single moment. You just wake up one morning and realize you haven't said what you actually believe about anything in 18 months. You're 28. You are the most popular version of a person who no longer exists. Then life happens the way it always does, without asking permission. You're 29. Your mother gets sick. Not the kind of sick where you send send flowers and call on weekends. The kind where you move back home and sleep on a chair next to her bed and forget what day it is for weeks at a time. You stop posting, stop attending, stop responding to the pings and the invitations and the little digital handshakes that keep the number alive. You don't decide to disappear. You just don't have anything left to perform with. 3 weeks in, your score has dropped 41 points. Your employer sends a well-being check, which sounds caring until you read the second paragraph, where it mentions that sustained score decline may trigger a role review. Your landlord's automated system flags your tenancy for reassessment. 2 people you considered close friends quietly unlink from your network, not out of cruelty, but because the algorithm stopped surfacing your name and they simply forgot to look. You come back 6 weeks later. Your mother is recovering. You're not. You look at your network and it's like returning to a flat that's been slowly emptied while you were gone. Everything's technically still there, but the arrangement is wrong. People who used to message you daily now take 3 days to reply. An invitation list you were always on no longer includes your name. A colleague who once called you her work sister introduces you to a new hire as someone from my old team. Present tense reclassified to past, just like that. You weren't punished for failing. You were punished for being human at the wrong volume. But here's where it gets into your bones. You're 35 now. You have a daughter. She's 12. She's sharp and strange, and she writes these elaborate fantasy stories in a notebook she won't let anyone read. You love her so much, it scares you sometimes. She's also checking her score before breakfast. Not because you taught her to, because every kid at school does. Because the after-school drama club has a minimum engagement score for participation. Because her best friend's parents check incoming social connections against score brackets. And if your daughter drops below a 75, that friendship moves from active to pending review, an actual status that an actual 12-year-old has to navigate. So she performs. She's 12 and she's already curating. You watch her rehearse a smile before recording a short video for her feed. She tries 3 different laughs, picks the one that sounds the most effortless and posts it with a caption she workshopped for 20 minutes. She's 12 years old. She shouldn't know the word algorithm, but she uses it the way you used to use homework, as the thing you have to finish before you're allowed to be yourself. One night, you find her sitting on her bed with the notebook closed on her lap, not writing, just holding it. You ask if she's okay. She says, "Is it weird that I only write stories nobody sees?" And something inside you fractures quietly, because she's not asking about the stories. She's asking whether the part of her that isn't for an audience is still allowed to exist. Psychologists call this the looking glass self, the idea that who you become is shaped by how you believe others see you. When a child learns early that perception is survival, they don't develop a self. They develop a strategy. And the distance between those 2 things is where childhood quietly suffocates. You want to tell her to close the app and open the notebook, but you know what happened the last time someone you love went quiet. You know what the silence costs, so you say nothing. And that silence, the parental kind, the kind born from knowing better and fearing worse, is its own kind of decay. Now step into someone else's life entirely. Someone who stopped, not out of protest, not out of principle, out of exhaustion. You're 41. You were a teacher for 14 years. Good at it. Loved it. But the school board started tying contract renewals to staff engagement scores, and the weekly visibility requirements, the mandated community posts, the parent interaction quotas, the algorithmic proof of presence hollowed you out so slowly you didn't notice until you were empty. So you stopped. Not dramatically. You just stopped pretending that performing for a screen was the same as teaching a child. You let the score bleed out. 80, 60, 40. At some point, it crossed into what the system calls socially inactive, which is a clinical term for a person the world has agreed to stop seeing. Here's what social death actually looks like. It's not dramatic. Nobody shows up to condemn you. Your phone just goes quiet. The invitations stop. Not suddenly, but the way a tap drips slower until it doesn't. Friends don't abandon you. They just stop being reminded you're there. The algorithm was doing the work of remembering on their behalf, and once it stopped, so did they. You apply for a new teaching position. Your application isn't rejected. It's never opened. You go to a community meeting. People are polite, but polite the way you'd be polite to a stranger, not to a neighbor who's lived on the same street for 11 years. Sociologists call this social death, not a physical ending, but the moment a person stops being recognized as a participant in the world around them. It's not violent. It's just silent, and it's permanent in all the ways that matter. The system didn't cancel you. It simply simply stopped confirming you were real. And without that confirmation, most people won't bother checking for themselves. Small rebellions form in the margins. People build private networks, unscored, untracked, invisible to the algorithm. They call them dark channels, relationships maintained through handwritten letters and in-person visits, specifically because the system can't measure them. There's something both beautiful and heartbreaking about the fact that the most honest human connections in this world are the ones that have to hide from it. Others game the system from the inside. Engagement farms, where you pay a monthly fee and a team of strangers endorses you. Comments on your posts simulates the warmth of a social life that doesn't exist. The industry is enormous, and nobody talks about it because admitting you pay for the appearance of being loved is the one confession this system can't absorb. In a few places, communities of expired people form on the edges, building trust the old way, slowly, face to face, by showing up when it counts. A woman in one of these communities runs a repair cafe. No score verification, no digital handshake, just skill and presence and a conversation that doesn't need an audience. She says it's the first time in years she's felt like a person instead of a profile. But the system tightens. It always does. Score verification at hospitals, at schools, at the pharmacy counter. The walls between active and expired harden into infrastructure. And the people on the wrong side get quieter, not because they've given up, but because they've learned that in this world, quiet is exactly what makes you disappear. Now step out of this world for a second. Look at the one you already live in. Your Instagram reach drops every week you don't post. LinkedIn buries your profile the moment you stop engaging. A friend you haven't messaged in 3 months quietly vanishes from your feed. Not unfollowed, just algorithmically deprioritized, which amounts to the same thing wearing a politer name. Your professional network doesn't remember you unless you remind it. Your social circle contracts the moment you stop performing for it. We don't call this a reputation score. We don't give the decay a number, but it's there, invisible, constant, and punishing anyone who dares to step away and just be still. The world in this video put a counter on it and made it visible. Ours runs the same system with the screen turned off. No one is cancelled. They're just slowly forgotten. And the system doesn't even have to try. It just waits.